happens now if you're if you have now your income is what's going in and your expenses are what's going out? What happens if what goes in is not equal to what goes out? If that's not what you see, if that's not how you report, you get taxed one way, right? If what you comes in is more, if you're saying that I benefit more by what comes in and I'm not benefiting the system enough, it's less, right? And what comes out, there's a tax incurred, right? And you owe tax. You blame the system the way it works. You say the IRS, they're greedy, and it's your reporting that's making it that way. So all you got to do is recognize that what's coming in is equal to what's coming out, and it'll always be this at the bottom. Always, every time. But you'll get the benefit of having a government agency back the activity of value that's fluctuating through your entity, whether it be your United States citizen, or whether it be, which is your social security card, or whether it be your public, your collective community entity, or some type of corporation or foundation or religion or whatever you want. If you can have the eyes to see and recognize what's going in equal to what's going out, you will always have a big zero at the bottom. And you'll always be able to take that to an entity like a bank, and a bank says, well, what's your proof of income? Or how many people have ever been in a situation where someone's like, do you have proof of income? Yeah. Now, is it better if you have a higher level of income than having a lower level of income? It kind of depends on something called debt to income ratio. You guys remember something like that? What's your monthly expenses? The bank wants to know how much money you're recognizing is coming in so they can see if you have money to pay back for the loan that they want to give you. Okay, so let's say your expenses are $5,000 a month and you have proof of income of about 10 grand a month, okay? And you have reoccurring expenses of $5,000. How much money do you have available to pay back each month? $5,000. Okay, what if we took that same scenario and the way that person reported was a certain type of accounting to get in that position? Okay, we're going to call that corporate accounting. In corporate accounting, they do not recognize the value of receipts, they do not recognize the value of bills, and they do not recognize the value of bank statements. All of those pieces of paper that were generated in those three classes, they do not recognize as being assets. They put them in a drawer, they save them, but they do not recognize them as being assets. If you're to recognize all that value as being assets, your income may go up to 10 times. Now if you were to show a bank, I've got reoccurring expenses of $5,000, but I have proof of income of $100,000 a year. Are you going to get a better loan? If you have the same credit, let's say? Yeah, so how do we go about doing that? We'll get there. Okay, so anyway, that was just all about the word arrangement and tax. Again, synonyms for contract: bargain, bond, commission, commitment, compact. What is that? Concordat? Concordat. I don't know if that's a spelling error or if that's a real word, but it could be. Convention, covenant, deposition, dicker, engagement, evidence is a contract, guarantee, a handshake, indenture, a liability, an obligation, pact, mise, paper, a pledge, a promise. There we go, all promissory notes are contracts. Proof, record, settlement, stipulation, treaty. That would be an international contract. Understanding. Okay, it's kind of funny what Black's Law does is it gives you the definition of the letters of the alphabet at the beginning of each section. The T I wanted to go into because we're talking about a sale as the passing of title from a seller to a buyer for a price. So if we have one position and another, let's say on an X, Y, and Z axis, we have something at +2, +2, and +2, -2, and those are our two positions. We have energy that's passing from one position to another. That is maybe tangible or intangible energy. That's our title, okay? It's a symbol, okay? Any type of symbol is our title. Okay, so we have a territory, the Trinity, a term, tempore. Every person who was convicted of a felony short of murder and admitted to the benefit of clergy was at one time marked with this letter upon the brawn of the thumb which was then abolished. That's kind of interesting. It's again, we're getting into a little bit of color here. That, you guys remember the Scarlet Letter? How you brand an A on, a woman who commits adultery, or maybe just a person in general commits adultery. We have here that a T was branded on someone who's convicted of a felony and short of murder, but T is also the symbol for accounting. The T chart, right? The accounting chart. So we're getting into these very colorful words here, felony and murder. And what's funny about this, if you look at the word, another synonym for like felony, which is a little bit different, is the word crime. Okay, and we just saw that we're dealing with the color of law here. When you look up the word crime, I believe it's in Black's Court, the first way they describe a crime is that it's an atrocious dye, D-Y-E. It is of a heavier, maybe a darker color, but a color nonetheless. Okay, definition of title in Black's Law. Here we're going to get pretty chemistry here with this word. The radical meaning of this word appears to be that of a mark, style, or designation. So any mark is a title, which means what? All symbols are titles. Okay, anybody ever heard when we get into the commerce scene or the sovereign scene that you are not your name? Anybody heard that before? I am not my name.
Yeah.
Right? So what do we say? So, instead of saying, if I say my name is Zachary, what we feel is, oh, well, that's how you end up in jail, because what you're doing is you're attaching this fiction symbol, Zachary, to the body. And the way we attach it is by using personal pronouns. I am this, right? You, me, right? Anytime you can tie that symbol to this symbol, right? Because this symbol, what's actually the title of this symbol? Right here.
I.
This is it. This is the symbol, right? Any other word that you use, that you place upon it, it's going to act as a representation of the presence that you see right here. So if someone says, you are Zachary, but, really you can choose to tie the name Zachary to the body, or you can simply say, well, if you look at it as a mathematical equation, and you say Zachary is like an equal sign, right? Really, if we want to keep it nice and even, we simply say Zachary is Zachary, right? And I am that I am, and Zachary is Zachary, instead of going into the whole I am not the person, but you just said I, so who are you? It's always going to come back down to the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland. But who are you then? If you're not Alice, then who are you? Well, right here. Okay? So this is a title, and Zachary's a title, and in commerce, there's an act of attaching titles to other titles, okay, and tying them together to make like a chain. Sometimes we take a bunch of titles and we put them all together on one page, and then give that a big title on top of it, right? And we say, this is an agreement, this is a security agreement, this is a mortgage, or we title a book. We say, this is Harry Potter, this is Lord of the Rings. Okay, but really what just happened, we just took a bunch of titles, a bunch of symbols, put them under one account, and gave that account a brand new name, and that brand new name is the title of your book. And a book is an account. Okay. Anybody know what a radical is in chemistry? Free radical. It's an ion. Is it a free electron? I think it's a free electron, right? You have these little...
It's a non-bound electron in the molecular structure.
It's a free electron, right? And so there's we describe molecules in kind of two different ways. And the reason why I go here is I like going to chemistry and nature so you can see that whatever's going on in commerce is just a fractal. It's a total fractal of nature. Okay, right now. I don't care, you can call everything corrupt, call it whatever word you want. What's going on right there is exactly what's going on when a flower is growing and it blossoms. It's the exact same process, okay? So, radical is we have these an atom, which is what we call has an extra electron, right? We call it electron rich, okay? Then we have another atom over here that is missing an electron. It's electron poor, right? And so the electron is actually, if we want to transfer that title from the one that's electron rich to the one that's electron poor,
Charge.
there's an action, right? Well, the one that's electron rich, it's charged. And the one that's electron poor, we may say, has a negative charge or needs to be charged. But what happens if those two come together and they end up sharing the electron? What do we form? Oh, dealing with the passing of title, which is a sale, which is a contract, and in the passing of title, forming a bond. Okay, so it's natural. It's natural law we're always talking about. The name by which anything is known is a title. Thus, in the law of persons, a title is an appellation of dignity or distinction. Okay? So, you ever heard about the 13th Amendment? And what was that? No titles of nobility? Okay? Another synonym for a title of nobility is, where is it? Where was it? A dignity. Okay? And a dignity or distinction, a name denoting the social rank of a person bearing it, such as Duke or Count. Duke or Count is a title of nobility, okay? And we were all, there's a lot of people really upset out there in the sovereign movement about the 13th Amendment being abolished and how it's a horrible thing. But really, do you think we can communicate in commerce without titles of nobility? I mean, really, is calling someone an officer or a judge a title of nobility? Yeah. So you see how they kind of went back on that because they realized that it was basically they didn't like the word title of nobility or whatever it was, but we're doing it nonetheless. We're always, doctor, musician. Those are all titles of nobility. We love titles of nobility. We love naming things. We love calling people names. We love calling our friends and our siblings by different names, or when they do something great, give them a new name. Boom, oh, he's the master, or whatever, right? So it's titles of nobility is a great thing because it's a way we classify or tax something, and then we can go ahead, because it's been taxed or classified, we can go ahead and move it around. We can move it around and sell it, We can help exchange that value with other positions on the graph, like you guys or whatever. Okay, so the title of a statute is the heading or preliminary part furnishing the name by which the act is individually known. It is usually prefixed to the statute in the form of a brief summary of its contents. As an act or the prevention of gaming. Again, the title of a patent is the short description of the invention, which is copied in letters patent from the inventor's petition. Okay, anytime you get into patents, you're getting into royalty, right? Who issues letters patent, right? Like the king or queen. Go on to the next page. Okay, I love this right here. What you're seeing is a contract. Okay, that's a contract. So here it is. We're going to say the white space is the universe, okay? And that we have not defined anything in the universe. We're sitting in our primordial state or meditative state. We haven't distinguished any one thing from anything else. But all of a sudden, at one point, we make a distinction. We say, I exist, or whatever it is, okay? And that distinction is definition. And the definition, like we were saying earlier, is a collapse or a contract, which is a falling together, right? And so right here, we've got our contract, our little white dot. But I want you to imagine that this white space out here infinitely goes in every direction. Okay, so we got a little planet, little contract Earth right here, right? And this is how a lot of our contracts are. All the contracts are created. They basically look just like this. Okay. Now, when you're in a contract, you're setting a guideline for how you want to move and conduct yourself, a custom, a way to exchange information. And so when they say you're operating within the contract, what do we call that? If you're operating within your contract, You are legal. Anybody else? And honor, right? You're operating in honor with your contract. You're abiding by your contract. You are conforming to your contract, right? When you're in that dot, okay? Now, what happens if you move outside of that dot? Breach, right? Right? You broke the law, okay? Now, if that is our agreement and the white space is infinitely going out in every direction, what are the chances we're going to break the law?
Pretty high.
Extremely high, right? You see why there's so much breach going on in the world with contracts, okay? Because there's so much potential for energy loss. Now, what's it called when you designate energy to work for a specific purpose and you lose energy during that process? It's energy that's unavailable for work. We're going into science here. What is it? Resistance. Okay, resistance is a part of it. You're right. Entropy is the word. Entropy is the energy that is created but cannot be used for work. Isn't there like a huge energy issue right now? We all know energy can either be created or destroyed. But there seems to be this crazy idea of energy deficiency, and we've got all types of ideas out there of how we can go ahead and use this energy that we're losing so that we have higher efficiency. Go ahead.
Well, isn't it also defined as from the movement of order to disorder?
Is entropy?
Yeah.
It may be movement of order to disorder. So yeah, because we could say that a bill is or a contract is the order that or a tax, back to tax and arrangement, a great word, and an order is a bill as well that we can operate in. And so when you operate outside of that, you are out of order, right? Which is broken, right? So, okay, so I want you to imagine this dot right here actually as like a wire, like a conductor, okay? And there's another word, and it may have slipped my mind, maybe one of you know it. When you have a wire that's running across, let's say from here to there, and the energy source is here, and you're trying to get it to work a machine over there, when the energy moves out of this wire, isn't there energy that's lost, right, over time? And isn't that one of the things that everybody's trying to do, is they're trying to capture that energy so they can make, and all the energy that machine outputs, that anything that's not being used specifically to spin, or whatever you're trying to do, or do the work, you can recycle it back into the battery and then go back through again, right? It's called like over unity, right? Where we're using all the energy, there is no loss, okay? But it's hard to do when our contract is simply in that white dot and everything outside of it is a loss or breach. Well, we already transcended the word breach into something favorable. So now let's see, let's do the same thing here with this dot. Okay, whoops. Okay, so what's the inverse of this contract? Click the next slide down. We're going to be thumbing through back and forth. That's the inverse, right, of the dot. So what if when you make an agreement, it's the white dot it's the black dot with the white background. And then as you make that agreement, you make another agreement, which is its complement. It's its inverse. It says, we have an agreement for when you operate inside the dot, but we create another agreement for when you operate outside of the dot. So either you're honoring the contract within the dot, or you're honoring the contract outside of the dot. Either way, you're honoring.
It's a balance of accounts.
It's a balance. It's a balance of accounts, because what are you doing? You're actually accounting for both sides, both perspectives of the equation, okay? And so this is exactly what, if you've ever looked into pulse motors and things of that nature, there were things that people were doing to capture the energy that was being lost over the conductor or the wire or whatever, and was either magnetically pushing it back into the wire or taking that energy and putting it back through the battery so that you have higher efficiency. Okay, so that's kind of the same idea that we have with our contracts. Because if we just have a contract to where that tiny little dot is honor and everything outside of it is dishonor, we're freaking dishonoring all the time. How many people, when you start with a relationship, it's nice and great, but over time, the way you build your contract, it creates an experience where all you see in the other person is their breach of the contract and the expectation that you built around them. And then when you are finally released from that contract, you feel free. And it's maybe a struggle for a while because you have so much attachment, but you feel free and liberated. You know? So contracting is something that is existing everywhere in nature. So how are we defining it? We're defining it by saying that when we contract, we make something smaller. And when making something smaller and defining it, we're limiting it, right? So if I say, wow, that person's like always on time, it's like they'll be here, but then when they're not here, breach, right? So definition creates, and contract creates expectation. And if what you expect isn't actually presented at the time it's supposed to be, you have breach, you have disappointment. You know, so how do we tune our experience to where we're not disappointed when anything bounces outside of that little space? We have to build a complementary contract, okay? And in doing that, we can make it to where no matter what we do, or that other person does that we're relating with, that we have a contract with, we're always in honor. We're either in honor in the one perspective, which we had with the white dot or the black dot in the white background, or we're in honor in the other perspective. Either way, we're in honor, okay? And it's like, that's like, you know, how I would like to design my contract, so I'm not dealing with a failure, you know, every time that some energy bounces outside of that dot. All right, so I just wanted to get that little point across. And we're going to use this example again in the future. How are we doing on time?
So
All right.
5 to 9.
5 to 9. Is everybody okay? Is it cool if we go a little over? Okay. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, so we have here method of manifestation. We're all going to manifest something together. Okay, manifestation is kind of about bringing something that is intangible. It's like in our mind, maybe an idea that we see, and bringing it into our world so that we can share it with everybody. Okay, so we'll talk about the steps of manifestation, and maybe that value that we're talking about that we weren't recognizing before, it'll lend us some insight to how we could take that value and we could manifest it into our reality. We could be alchemists about it. So the first thing that happens, we have this intangible thing that maybe we say, oh, it came to me through divine inspiration, or I thought of it, or I saw something and then it made me think of it, and then an idea is formed. And we say, I have an interest. I have an interest in something being some way. I have an interest in definition. I have an interest in an experience. So I say that first stage is probably conception, when the idea in your mind is just a simple concept, and maybe you have it in your mind, and that's the first step. So it comes from maybe divine inspiration through thinking or the acquisition of an interest. Anybody have anything to add to that? Conception?
Birth.
Huh?
Birth.
Well, birth happens after conception, right? It's part of this. Yeah, it's coming. So the next thing we do when we have this idea in our mind, let's say we want to make a music record, and we've got this idea of this tune in our head. Okay, what's the next step? We develop it, right? We either develop it in our mind and or we develop it on our instrument, right? We start playing it, right? And you know, developing it, we talk about it to people, maybe we play it in front of some other people. So in development, which is also, again, when there's conception, if we think about, you know, having a baby, after conception happens, there's development and growth, right? Nurturing, contemplation, discovery. Okay, so I want to, so we'll just keep going here. So after we develop our idea, or let's say, again, it's like a musical, it's a song, and that song, we account for it in some way. And the way we account for it is, well, already in the intangible level, we've accounted for it, but we want to take that complete idea and we want to bring it into the physical world. We could say here, is an idea of making birth when we're doing accounting, and we make some form of record, right? We make a photograph, we make a document, we write it, we write it down, we film it, we record the sound, something like that. We are doing accounting, okay? This is the same exact idea in commerce. Is anytime the value is being exchanged, I want to go to the store and I need to get whatever. What do we want from the store? Somebody throw something out. Eggs? Okay, want some eggs from the store. So first thing, the idea is conceived in our mind. Then we develop a way to get there. We say, I'm going to ride my bike to the store. Or maybe you're just going to sit there and think about some eggs, and a friend's going to call and be like, hey, I just got these eggs here. Oh, there we go. So there's this method of developing how we go about getting there. We're discovering how it's going to happen. There's nurturing involved. Okay, and then we go ahead and account for it. We go ahead and make the move, right? We grab the food, we give it to the cashier and say, I want this. You end up giving them a piece of paper, and they end up giving you a piece of paper. So really, but the piece of paper that you give them, let's say it's a $10 bill, what you get back is another piece of paper that says $10 on it. So at the end of the day, you gave them a piece of paper, they gave you a piece of paper. What came through the middle? The actual object, right? Which they say is priceless in a way. But we discounted the value of that thing, the egg, which is a great, now I get it where you got that from. And we put these little pieces of paper around it. We played a little card game on the side. We gave on one end and we received on the other. Most of us, again, we take that receipt and we kind of, if we consider this playing a card game, we just took that card and we just discard because we don't know how to use it. We think it has a limited value, but because we can't go buy food with it, right? But isn't there pieces of paper out there that you guys know are valuable that you can't go buy food with, but they're valuable? What about the title to your car? Can't go to the grocery store and buy food with it. It's valuable though, right? So there are pieces of paper that you can't go buy food with that have value. You can go to a bank with the title to your car. If you have it free and clear, you can get the money to go buy food, right? So you could almost say that the title to your car or your house is on that second stage of liquidity. You could say Federal Reserve notes or the money in your bank account, those numbers on the computer screen, they're really liquid. They can be used to do all types of things, right? You can go just about anywhere. People love Federal Reserve notes and credit cards and debit cards and stuff like that. But you take a title to a car or a house, you have a limit.